Hello and welcome. My name is Barak Avram, and I am very happy to be the moderator of today's panel. Thank you for coming, and special thank you, Dr. Yossi Vardi, who gave me the opportunity to be here with you today. This conference examines the influence of technology on education. We will discuss the ability of schools and classrooms to accommodate technological advancement, and we will examine the influence of technology on future generations. In addition, we have to think about the reality to today's economy. We need to consider to existing research on technology and education. We must also think about possible risk factors of increasingly technological environment on unemployment. We will also talk about the influence of the media on culture, attitudes, and employment. It is my pleasure to introduce two panelists for today. Mr. Avi Warshawski is interested in the rise of promising startups and interested in the Internet's role in education. Mr. David Weinberg is interested in the Internet's influence on how we organize our ideas, as well as its influence on business, and is also an author on the subject. Mrs. Elizabeth Sherman established a media company called States of Mind, which considered the interaction between the media and culture. Mrs. Dita Boronsky, a businesswoman that has contributed a lot to Israel's economy. She helped establish Ormat and won the Israel Prize for Industry in 2017 for here. Mrs. Brodsky also established the high school Ormat in Yavne. Mrs. Kerental was she principal of the Briary Krozog School in Tel Aviv. She won the Bronfman Prize for Education, and school in which she worked won and was Oscar for the documentary Strangers No More. Dear parents, I will be happy to every one of you introduce himself or herself, and you are doing. Please.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Lisbeth Sherman. I'm French and American, based in Washington, D.C. I'm specialized in public diplomacy, and I'm assisting through States of Mind, a non-profit organization. I'm assisting bilateral institutions, embassies, and corporations to reach out to various communities and to help them think about specific topics as diversity, technology and education, digital civic engagement. So we have partnered with the French, I've worked at the French Embassy. We partner with the US Embassy, specifically in projects between the US and Israel. And we are also partnering with GPSA, Global Partnership for Social Accountability, an agency at the World Bank. We provide also webinars and training in communication and how to use better technological tools.
Excuse me, I want to introduce myself, okay? I'm very excited to be open this important panel. My name is Barak Avram, and I would like to share my personal story with you. It is ironic that I was born in a small and simple village in Ethiopia with no forms of technology or modern communication at all. Yet now, I have the honor to take part in this panel on the subject of technology education and the future generation. Nowadays, I work as producer of a project named From Survivor to Leadership, and I have established a new youth movement of Israeli teenagers with focus on the Ethiopian youth. Thank you.
I'm Avi Warshavsky. I'm running Mindset, which is an EdTech innovation center. We try to create a solution for the next generation based on technology to solve pedagogical problems. When I say next generation, I mean 2 years from now, not 20 years. And the way we work is through entrepreneurship. We believe that entrepreneurs can really bring the change, and everything we do is actually helping startups to grow and to design their products in a way that they can really cope with education challenges. We're based in the Negev Desert in Yerucham. This is our headquarters, and we have a branch here in Tel Aviv, and also now a new branch in the north of Israel. And we are a spin-off of CET, which is a pretty established player in the Israeli educational system.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dita Borniki. With my husband Lushen, we established ORMAT 55 years ago, and we managed it until 5 years ago. So for 50 years, we were mainly in the industrial activity, but we've chosen as industrialists to pick education as our contribution to community. And the small corner in the world that we chose to concentrate in was vocational education, because we believe that not only is it important for the economy, it is a way to give to underprivileged children an easy way to express themselves, to identify themselves with something that is important and is doing it. And the school that we established, Barak mentioned it, is operating now for more than 40 years with many graduates managing the production activity of ORMAT. The production manager is a graduate of the school, and those are kids that otherwise may not have made it to be a good member of society. Since my retirement, I'm devoting most of my time to education, vocational education, technological education in the undergraduate arena, and together with Karen, some activity in Tovanot Lechinuch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very delighted to be here. With your permission, Barak, you mentioned that I own the Academy Award, the Oscar. So please, it wasn't me. It was the Academy Award because of the wonderful children, refugees, foreign workers' children, Arab, Israeli, all those children at school. And especially I mention it because at those days we deal with the deportation of wonderful children that are not be able to stay in Israel, and I feel very bad and sad about this phenomena. So the Oscar is about the children. Okay, so I'm Karen Tal. I'm the CEO of Tovanot B'Chinuch, Educational Insights. We focus how to turn around school in Israel with the holistic model that we create when I was a principal in Bialik Rogozin, and now we scale the model to 40 different schools in the geographic and the periphery in Israel, we figure out a principle that they are leaders, not just focused in pedagogic. We bring human resources like volunteers. I see here Talma, I see Lior Shalev, of course, Dita Bornitsky, that she's very, very involved in a school that called Bialik in Yavne. I hope that after that you will say a great thing about this school and the leadership of the principal. And we bring also a huge, like a movement of volunteers. We have almost 1,700 volunteers, and also extra budget. And then we believe that with those human resources and extra budget, each principal can turn around their own school instead of being a failing school, that each school can become a school of inspiration and good achievement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Weinberger. I'm honored and a little surprised to be here. I am a senior researcher at Harvard Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society. My badge, and it's set up there, that I also work at a small research group at Google. That's true. I'm a writer in residence. Nothing I say here reflects anything that Google may or may not. I need to be very careful about that. I'm speaking for myself. So, although it's a great learning experience, get to hang out with machine learning people, developers. So I've been writing about the internet for a long time and its effect on our ideas, because that's my interest. And I've been writing about machine learning for the past few years in the same regard. How, in this case, machine learning may be giving us a new idea of how we think, what our role in the world is, how we explain things, what education looks like, what knowledge looks like. And I think the internet has changed our ideas about many of those things as well, including, and maybe especially, how we think about knowledge. My background is as an academic philosopher. I used to teach. That was a long time ago. But knowledge certainly has been an important topic, obviously, in cultures around the world. And both machine learning and the internet, I think, have already changed those things. And for me, maybe the most important thing for the internet's effect on education is that the internet is where the kids are and will be lifetime learners. School is just a transitional, really important of course, but a transitional phase for them. They are already out on the internet, out on the web, out with their cell, all that stuff, learning. And oftentimes they're doing a terrible job at it because it's unsupervised and they haven't been trained by anybody how to come to belief on the internet. And we all know the issues and problems with the internet. I assume we're all okay with that. I don't need to point them out. But it's also in many ways a very positive thing, especially if we acknowledge that the internet is not a resource for education. It's not a place where students go. It's where students live. It's where they are. They go to school, but they live on the internet, to many people's distress. Therefore, I think one of the most important jobs of education at the moment is to help students get better at coming to belief on the internet. There's an enormous educational effort underway. More and more of it obviously needs to be done. And very briefly about machine learning, all that I'll say at the moment is that my interests are less in ways in which robots might replace teachers, which I don't think is going to happen. For me, the more interesting change that machine learning may be bringing in our model of how the world works, how we come to decisions, how we because machine learning doesn't care about generalizations, long-term models, or abstractions. It only cares about the connection of data to data to data to data, from which it makes mathematical statistical conclusions. That's very opposed to how we think about things, which is both challenging and scary, but also hugely beneficial. And if we start to reimagine ourselves according to the machine learning model, as we have for technology after technology, we seem to shape ourselves around our ideas about ourselves around our technology. If we do that for machine learning, then I think it will have a very profound effect on all of us on how we learn and also, therefore, how we teach. Thanks.
Thank you, David. David, the first question I ask you, what research has been done to show that technology can improve the quality exiting education?
Well, I will leave that answer to actual researchers and experts on the topic. I would just instead point to the way in which, so I'll ask a loaded question. In the previous session, somebody asked a question looking for hands, expecting hands, and none went up, which really threw off what he was about to say, I think. But I'm going to do the same thing. Overall, for people in this room, raise your hand if overall the internet has been a useful and valuable resource in your own coming to belief, exploring, and learning. So good, that's what I was hoping I would see. I think in most of our lives it's been an overwhelmingly positive thing. Now, most of the people in this room and very likely on this panel are in one way or another, we are in privileged positions. And so maybe it's a little bit easier for us to feel confident in how the internet has helped us. But overall, I think we need to be concerned if we think only, if we are so much on the negative side about the internet, it's destroying society, and there are real problems. I want to make that clear. But if overall we look out at the internet and we say, wow, that is just so horrible, it's made everything worse, made people stupider. Of course it has. And yet, when it comes to us, we say, well, not for me, of course. It's made me smarter. We need to be a little suspicious of that, and it certainly see that as an opportunity for trying to pass along what makes us good learners on the internet to all those other people who seem not to be good learners. So I have no data or statistics. That is a terrible weakness on my part. It's a failing, and I apologize. But in terms of my life and the people that I know and the people who they know, the internet does not much resemble the pit of ignorance that it seems to get portrayed out as quite frequently.
Thank you, David. Dita, we know you established and your husband an important company, Ormat, and I ask you, how does the international sector contribute to the educational sector?
With your permission, I will not talk about Ormat specifically. I think it's more interesting to look at it generally. And it is clear that the technology, whether it's internet, whether it's robotics, whether it's artificial intelligence, whatever, is changing the world of work. The world of work is changing. There is a debate how much impact this change is going to have. We are all quoting jobs that might disappear, whether as a result of the self-driving car or whether the result of robotics. We all know that other jobs will be created. Will it create a crisis in the world of work, or just a change or a gradual change in the world of work is debatable, but the fact that a change is coming or is occurring as we speak is clear, and it is clear that this will have to change the way we educate children, the way we educate young adults, and as importantly, the way we educate along the life. Long life learning is becoming a very important topic today, especially with the aging of the population. If we think that people will have to continue to work beyond the age of 65 or 67, and if we think that the technological changes are going to change those traditional jobs, long life learning is a must. So the education, the challenge of education starts with the young age, but continues throughout the life in all levels of education, and it's definitely a challenge to all of us.
Thank you very much. Avi, I have a question. can the implementation of technology help improve education?
Well, I'm not sure, by the way. I think we should implement technology, but it will not improve education in the way it looks like today. I think following the question you were asking David, the research we have shows that inserting technology into existing education system does not increase the outcomes, sometimes even does the opposite. And it's not because there is something wrong about the technology, there is something wrong about the educational system. I think we cannot really live in a world that is so different from the world that was decades ago and keep educational system in the same way and measure our outcomes in the same way it was measured before. So I think for the current educational system, probably we won't see the difference if you're going to measure it in the same way. I think for the way the world should look like, we must implement technology, but we must be brave in the sense of going one step forward and really use this in order to really to change deeply the way education is done.
Okay, thank you very much. And Karel, I know you work in Tovanot B'Chinuch, you manage Tovanot B'Chinuch, and I question, the education minister has proposed a new guideline that telephones should not be allowed into classroom from grade 7. What do you think about this?
Probably will not be a education minister for a long time. We just got the elections. But I think that this phenomena, described the uncomfortable way that educators, parents, children, very confused about using the cell phone. Because in one hand we say, wow, that it's great word. You Google everything and you got a lot of knowledge and you can communicate and have more friends and so on. But the other hand, there is a lot of problem like shaming and students that feel outside from the society. And I think that we didn't find yet the balance between the good things from the technology and the challenge that they bring us. So to say, okay, out of schools, especially elementary schools, the technology, which kind of message it gives to the teachers. So the teachers, to relate to the things that Avis mentioned, they will stay with the same method that was before. And technology, I want to believe still that technology can help us to close the social gap. Why I mention that? Because we want to think ourselves like the startup nation, but still each one of us know that there is two criteria that influence our future. And it doesn't matter about us. It's one factor, it's the social economic of the family, and the years of education of especially the mothers. And in Israel, out of 2 million children, 800,000 are students at risk. According to the OECD, we are number one nation of social inequality. And this technology can help us to close this gap. When we go deeply, we say not enough. Not enough because we should train the teacher, not enough because the students at risk struggle with English, and English it's a key, not Chinese. Meanwhile, even though that maybe it will be one day, the next step, and the environment in school at risk, it's not developed enough to give a good answer. So still, technology do not help really to close the gap, but here is Avi and Dita and other friends. I believe that we should continue to work with that.
Thank you. You give me example, Tovanot B'Chinuch, what you say now? Example, you are...
Yeah.
class?
For example, in Tovanot B'Chinuch, we bring huge of volunteers, many of them from high-tech company industry. So for one example, I think that Dita can give us about what's happened with the collaboration with Noba, Lomus, and other things. Do you want to take that from this point, please?
Yes.
I'll tell it as a story, not as a statement. A high-tech company by the name of Nova in the Nes Ziona industrial area has volunteered in an underprivileged school in Yavne by accepting a group of children once a week and building with them with a logo, programming logo devices, Lego devices with them. And we have one story which I think shows the effect of it more than anything. One of the girls who participated in the group was asked at the beginning of the program, like any other child, what do you want to be when you will grow up? Because one of the things that we are trying to give to these children is the ability to dream. And they didn't dream very high up initially. So this girl answered that she wants to be a cashier in a supermarket. Why do you want to be a cashier in a supermarket? Because our neighbor is a cashier in the supermarket and there is always food in the refrigerator in that house. After a year at Nova, we asked the same children the same question. What do you want to be when you grow up? And this same girl said, I want to be an engineer. Her total view of the world has changed.
Thank you very much, Cher. Elizabeth, you established a state of mind company. And I ask you, in your experience, how does the media influence people's ideas, opinions, and attitudes?
So, media can shape many ideas among the people, the good and the bad one. And fake news, for example, is one of the main issues that we have globally. But what we try to do at States of Mind is to help them to focus on media as a tool for social change, meaning their voice are important and the way they're going to disseminate their voice and their messages should touch anyone in the world, in the sense that we love the same way, we hate the same way, we eat the same way, and therefore you need to be able to translate this aspect through social media, through whatever, but you need to be responsible about that.
Thank you. And another question, Elizabeth. Can you give me examples from your own life of how the media has influenced any practical individual?
In what kind of media, for example?
Media, well, you know, your company's connection to the people, okay?
Yes.
And give me example how the connection, the words and the culture.
Okay. So, for example, one type of program that we have used is the use of film to work on the message of diversity. When we work with, on program with the US Embassy to reach out for communities with the message of diversity was a bit complex because we were a little bit advanced in this field in the US, and Israel was pretty new in the aspect to deal with what is diversity. So bringing filmmaker, film director in schools and in many communities and using film to highlight a societal quest and problem were easier to translate what society are going through.
Thank you very much. And I ask all you, okay, all the panelists, okay, the question. What skills are needed and succeed in today's globalized world in relation to employment, society, economy, and security? Okay, Olpa. What skills are needed to succeed today's globalized world in relation to employment, society, economy, and security? Everyone. Okay. What's that?
I think when you look at education, there is the knowledge area to learn facts and information, and there is the skills. The knowledge is probably less important, or at least you have to learn by heart much less facts and data than before, because that's very accessible through the internet. But you can't eliminate it altogether. You can't eliminate, I remember years ago, people would say, why do you need to learn the table of multiplication? You have a computer. You still have to learn orders of magnitude. You have to know order of magnitudes in order to operate in the world. And you can't do it without a certain level of knowledge. But more important, and I think that's become more clear to educators today, is really the learning of skills, and soft skills as important as technical skills. And I think the emphasis today is on soft skills, on problem solving, on innovation, on creativity. This has become more important in education, and you have to start early on in order to do it and in order to achieve the results.
Thank you. Karen?
I want to continue from this point. Dita, you talk about the soft skills. I think that also it's the most important things, because we need students to be able to be curious, to be courage, to ask questions, to collaborate, because with all this complicated world, we need more than one mind, different point of view. To be able to solve problem, you need to collaborate with each other. And I think that how to be a human being, like our parents always said, like back to the basic norm about to be tolerant, to see the advantage of a different culture, and be flexible about the world. I think that those are the most important things, because the knowledge, it's all over, and it's very easy today to go to the knowledge. But to have those soft skills, it's our challenge.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, well, if I weren't holding a mic, I would applaud for both of you. I want to stress the point that these soft skills, the social skills, the humility, sense of humor, openness, all of these things are not incidental to education, especially if we assume that the shape of knowledge itself has changed from the old medium of books, which are isolated and authoritative and quite limited and distinct because of the physical nature of books, to what I think has happened on the web over the past 20 years, which is the movement of knowledge into networks, so that it's a network artifact, not a printed or book artifact. Knowledge, I think, has taken on many of the aspects of the internet, just as books took on the properties of print. In print, ink settles into the pages, and knowledge for us is what is settled. When knowledge is on the internet, it never settles, and that's both very disturbing but also hugely exciting. And I think we can see that in this age, it's the best age ever to be a seeker of knowledge. It's also the best age ever to be a complete idiot, but let's focus on the knowledge seekers for the moment. Knowledge has taken on a new shape, and it has become social in a way that it wasn't. Books are not very social. The internet is fully social. It is always social. It's weird when it's not social. It's not very internet-y when it's not social. So when you are out on the internet and you are trying to learn something, it may be a quick fact or something you can get from a source, Wikipedia or wherever, or maybe Google or Bing just answers it for you. But if it's something that's actually interesting to you and you're curious and you want to know more about it, you'll find yourself on the internet in a fully social environment where the soft skills are not incidental. If you want to be a contributor to these knowledge networks, you need to be open and humble and to have a sense of humor and to be willing to break up the heavy discussion of knowledge with a joke, because that's what beings do. Knowledge itself has become more human and more social. So these soft skills are not being applied from the outside to knowledge. They are now what is constituting and building knowledge itself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Avi?
Well, when you ask about what's the most important, I think there are a few senses of importance. Like we can say, what if we could choose only one thing to teach, what would be this thing? Or if we analyze what's create gaps, for instance, in society, what is the most factor that create those gaps? And I relate to this question, like what really the thing that we can teach and learn that can narrow the gaps. And I think it's about language. I think language is not appreciated enough.
China English.
Every language. And I think there's a lot of research about the enormous effect of early ages of kids that were exposed to better language skills and, as opposed to kids that were not. And it goes all down the line to a very wide sense of what language is. I think part of what language in our age is not just the spoken languages, it's also really being a citizen in this internet space. It's also some kinds of language skills, but I think emphasizing more those areas of communicating, expressing, is the key, much more important if we have to choose only one, for instance, from math or other aspects.
Thank you, Avi. Thank you. Elizabeth?
One of the results in the risk of sorry, I wanted to talk about the shortage of tech talent, and maybe it starts very early at the education level. And as you mentioned, there is an issue with diversity, where children are not exposed enough to other culture. And there is also issues that they are a click away from YouTube, and therefore they are never bored. And when you are bored, I mean, that's the way you become creative. That's the way your imagination is working. And that's the way you can eventually think how to resolve bigger issues and not be intimidated in jumping in profession, like to be engineer or any profession related to STEM professional. So maybe we should teach them first how to get bored, and maybe we will see some results. But we are also working on an initiative where we want to build more bilateral educational program, where we start very early to have their counterpart on the other side of the planet, because technology is international, and that's a new currency. That's an international language. And therefore, even passport will not be relevant. Border will be transcended by technology. So we need to educate these kids how to operate in diverse environment, but also how to bring their culture to resolve other issues. So for example, if I don't know if you remember the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. One of the reasons how this crisis was not addressed the right way is because the CEO was British, operating in an American environment. So if I relate it to Ethiopia right now, and if I start to educate kids, whatever in Israel or in the United States, but later on send them to Ethiopia to actually, where there is a huge economic booming. We are not in the communist area 40 years ago. So what will be best? Someone from the United States, someone from Israel to send to Ethiopia and work for Intel or Motorola, or someone who would have been Ethiopian, who would have been trained in Israel or trained in the United States and going back, bringing his asset, what he has learned, and still, will be the best ambassador for this company in this specific country. So that will be my...
Thank you. Thank you. Avi, I want another question. Is implementation of new technology economically realistic and viable?
Well, I think we are in an era of transition in this sense. If we were having this panel about 10 years ago, probably the answer was no. But we see in the last decade a very rapid evolution of startup scene and investment scene across the globe, mainly in the United States, and in the last 3 years even more in China. We don't see it yet in the same volume in Europe or in Israel, but we see signs that this is happening. I think the key is really the parents that understand more and more the needs and express it and press the systems that usually are more difficult to be open to this kind of a change.
Thank you. Lita, you think danger unemployment because technology? Unemployment? Yeah, danger unemployment, yeah.
In numbers, I don't think so, because I think that the number of jobs is not diminishing, but the quality of job is changing, and that's a major change. On one hand, there is a big demand to more quality technological jobs, and there is a huge shortage all over the world for these jobs. On the other hand, there is the low-level jobs where there is a shortage of people are less satisfied with this work, and it creates also, this situation creates also a higher inequality in the population, because the difference in the wages is very big between the high-quality jobs and the lower-quality jobs. So there are huge social issues to worry about with the creation of this inequality between the two types or two families of jobs.
Thank you.
I completely agree on that, and what we see right now, like 5 miles from my home, Amazon just creates their headquarters number 2. And you can see that the state of Virginia did partner with Amazon to create a new pipeline education in terms of high-tech and STEM jobs for the future and education related to that. But the result that all the small and mid-sized companies now start to leave Virginia because they don't want to compete on how Amazon gonna hire their professional, because they have huge way to do it. They're gonna design curriculum which gonna meet their needs in terms of the industry. So these companies are leaving the States or think even to do something different. So what does it mean? That you're gonna have many areas where you're gonna have more economic disparity, and therefore less accessibility for people living in peripheral localization to be educated the right way, because everything is owned by a big tech giant corporation. Like IBM has created their own curriculum, Google has created their own curriculum. So that's what I wanted to.
Thank you very much. We finish now, and